My next guest is not only the author of this book, but he's also the publisher. And it's all about those gritty, early Texas Rangers. They rode for the Lone Star, and we're going to find out about some of the people who are in here and something about the publishing business. So I want you to help me welcome my next guest. He's Tom Knowles. He's been here before, but it's been too long, Tom. Welcome back.
It has been too long. Thank you.
The idea of publishing and of writing, I think a lot of people have the idea that they'd like to write a book sometime. You've had a career of putting good ideas together for a long time, but now you're doing it for others as well. Talk a little bit about the publishing business before we talk about the book.
Well, I've had different books and series published by different publishers, and I've never been satisfied with any of them, and some of them are pretty big names. And my work's been published and printed and sold all over the world. And my wife said, well, if you're not satisfied with that, why don't we just start our own company? And I looked for a printing plant to do it, and that person that owned the printing plant happened to be Steve Britton, who owns Topps Printing here and had printed fine books, and my wife's company had done business with him for years. I went in and got some estimates from him, and then he started saying, looking at it and looking at the numbers, and he said, how would you like a partner? So Steve Britton and I are partners in Lone Star Publishing. Britton and Knowles is our overall company name, and we also have another imprint called Dark Star Books. So, of course, I let out with my own book first.
Well, how smart is that? That's a good thing. And I do want to talk about this book because you have really delved into the lives of some really interesting fellows, and yet I suspect there's one maybe that stands out to you. Who's your favorite?
Probably Jack Hayes.
And why?
He was the first truly great Ranger captain. He was the captain of the Texas Rangers during the Republic. I mean, there were several captains, but he was the premier captain, and he created the Rangers. He had someone who was the inspiration later for Tonto, was young Chief Flacco of the Lipan Apache, helped him teach his men how to ride like Apaches. He learned from Flacco, and he taught his men how to ride and fight and shoot from horseback, which is very difficult. Most horses don't like it when you shoot guns off around them.
I'm sure they don't.
And really turn them into a fighting force, which the early Rangers were a paramilitary fighting force. They were like U.S. Army Rangers. They went out into the wilderness and they fought the enemy. They were not law enforcement. They evolved into that later.
Well, and you mentioned the Apaches, but there's Comanches. The Indians are very much an integral part of this whole idea of the Rangers, and I guess I didn't expect that.
The Rangers' basic job in the days of the colony days, the days of the Republic and early statehood, was to fight mounted enemies, which were basically Mexican troops. They fought in the wars with Mexico, and bandits and Indians. And myself, I have ancestors who were Comanches and ancestors who were Rangers, so that explains my interest. They were all an integral part. The way that you look at it is several cultures came together here in Texas, which is where the Wild West began, and came together sometimes in friendship, but most often in conflict. And the Rangers run like a connecting tether through the entire history of Texas. If you look at it, a large percentage of the counties in Texas are named for either Republic or early statehood Texas Rangers.
I was surprised in looking at this how many names I recognized, and I would have to say to myself, I didn't know he was a Texas Ranger. I didn't know that part of history. And the other thing that I guess I was surprised in looking at this is that they really were all over the place. You've covered all sections of the state, so no matter where a person's interest is, there's a ranger that's in there.
That's right.
And how did you get all of this information together?
Well, I had started reading about Rangers and Comanches and others when I was young. But when I got the idea for this project, I went to the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame and Museum in Waco, and they very kindly made me resident historian for about a year and a half, 2 years, and gave me kind of an open book there. I also went to many other fine institutions like the Texas State Library Archives, which have the Ranger papers, which are literally everything down to supply letters.
It's just, it's intriguing. You've been able to incorporate so much of that. I want to put some information on the screen, Tom, and I also want to show the book up close that we're talking about, and we'll look at it, and then we'll go to the information on the screen so that people can. This is They Rode for the Lone Star, the saga of the Texas Rangers. You see Tom W. Knowles is the author and the publisher, of course. And then this next page. They Rode for the Rangers. If you want more information, here's the telephone number, 979-779-2300, or you can go to this website, www.lonestarpublishing.net, and find out a lot of things we haven't been able to talk about today. But, Tom, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you, Sharon.
It's our pleasure.